In fiction, a good villain will make you despise them, but a great villain will make you question your very fundamentals. Edward Sallow, better known as Kaiser, is one of those villains, and for many of us will go down in history as one of the greatest fictional antagonists of all time. But why is this? How could we find a character so repulsive, so fascinating at the same time? Well, in today's video, I hope we can answer this question by diving into the story and philosophies of Edward Sallow. Today's video will be broken into two sections. Firstly, we will be diving into the story of Edward Sallow and how he became Kaiser. Secondly, we will be taking a closer look at the philosophies and ideologies found at the foundation of the Legion. With that being said, who better to tell the story than Kaiser himself? In preparation for today's video, I have edited all of Kaiser's dialogue into one seamless monologue. So, grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy.
Ironically, I was born a profligate myself, a citizen of the NCR. My family lived not far from the Great Boneyard. After raiders killed my father, my mother sought the followers' protection. I was 2 years old. She found work at their library, cooking and cleaning. I learned how to read, and soon I was taking courses, free of charge. When I was 20, the followers sent me east to Grand Canyon. It was my first expedition, just me and a physician named Calhoun. As an anthropologist and linguist, my assignment was to learn the dialects of the Grand Canyon tribes. What a f***ing waste of time. If you think it's worthwhile to make smart people learn how to talk like backward savages, you're a follower of the apocalypse, or an idiot. Anyway, we met up with a Mormon missionary who already knew a bunch of dialects, Joshua Graham. He was supposed to teach me, but before that went too far, the Blackfoot tribe captured us to hold us for ransom. They were a backward bunch, but the real problem was they didn't know how to fight. The Blackfoot were at war with 7 other tribes, each just as pissant as they were. But outnumbered like that, they weren't going to last long. It's one thing to be taken hostage, another to be lashed to a sinking ship. So over Calhoun's objections, I decided to take certain steps. I taught them how to use the guns they already had, how to strip and clean them, how to breathe when pulling a trigger, how to reload ammunition. They looked at me like I was some kind of a sorcerer. So I taught them how to make explosives and started drilling them on small unit tactics. If there's anything I learned as a follower of the apocalypse, it's that there's a lot of good information in old books. Divide et impera, divide and conquer. I led the Blackfoot against the Ridgers, their weakest enemy. When they refused to surrender, I ordered every man, woman, and child killed. When next we surrounded the Kaibabs, and they likewise refused, I took one of their envoys to the Ridgers' village and showed him the corpse piles. This was new for the tribes, you see. They played at war, raiding each other, a little rape and pillage here, a little ransoming there. I showed them total warfare. Like I said, there's a lot you can learn from old books. Kaibabs joined me, and the Fredonians after that. All the pissant tribes with names that should be forgotten. I knew from the start I'd need to eradicate this plague of tribal identities, replacing them with a monolithic culture, a uniform identity. So that's what I did once my confederation of tribes was large enough. I crowned myself Kaiser and created a single great tribe, my Legion. I sent Calhoun, the follower captured with me, back west with a message that I should not be interfered with. Joshua Graham, the Mormon interpreter, stayed with me and served as my first legatus. Decades of warfare, absorbing lesser tribes, gathering power, forging the dross into a vast, razor-sharp scythe. My Legion's expansion has never ceased. Much of the Utah and Colorado and all of Arizona and New Mexico are mine. We have cities of our own, but nothing compared to Vegas. Finally, my Legion will have its Rome. I used Imperial Rome as the model for my Legion precisely because it was so foreign, so alien. I'd seen what had become of the NCR's attempts to emulate the culture of pre-war America, the infighting, the corruption. Rome was a highly militarized autocracy that effectively integrated the foreign cultures it conquered. It dedicated its citizens to something higher than themselves, to the idea of Rome itself. In Rome, I found a template for a society equal to the challenges of the post-apocalyptic world, a society that could and would survive, a society that could prevent mankind from fracturing and destroying itself in this new world by establishing a new Pax Romana, a nationalist, imperialist, totalitarian, homogenous culture that obliterates the identity of every group it conquers. Long-term stability at all cost. The individual has no value beyond his utility to the state, whether as an instrument of war or production. The bombs wiped the slate clean. Human civilization descended to a level of ignorance that effectively set our cultural progress back to zero. The NCR has all the problems of the ancient Roman Republic: extreme bureaucracy, corruption, extensive senatorial infighting. Just as with the ancient Republic, it is natural that a military force should conquer and transform the NCR into a military dictatorship. Thesis and antithesis. The Colorado River is my Rubicon. The NCR Council will be eradicated, but the new synthesis will change the Legion as well, from a basically nomadic army to a standing military force that protects its citizens and the power of its dictator. As a young man, I was taught to venerate President Tandy of Shady Sands, the founding mother of the new California Republic. Did you know her presidency lasted 52 years? And that her father, Aradesh, was the Republic's first president? Does that sound like a democracy to you? Or a hereditary dictatorship? So things ran smoothly, more or less. And as soon as she was gone, as soon as there really could be democracy, what happened then? Ever since losing its queen, the NCR has been weaker, more diffuse. Democracy has been its weakness, not its strength. Greed runs rampant. The government is corrupt, accepting bribes from Brahmin barons and landowners to the detriment of citizens. The NCR is a loose conglomerate of individuals looking out for themselves. It's lost virtue. No one cares about the collective, the greater good. It's not built to last. I'm just hastening the inevitable. Until now, every tribe I've conquered has been so backwards and stunted, enslavement has been a gift bestowed upon them. My conquest of the Mojave will be a glorious triumph, marking the transition of the Legion from a basically nomadic tribe to a genuine empire. Just as my namesake campaigned in Gaul before he crossed the Rubicon, so have I campaigned and will cross the Colorado.
One might be surprised at Edward's seemingly insignificant upbringing within the Wasteland. However, I feel like it adds to the fascination in his character, as it highlights that in a world of chaos, knowledge is a stronger tool than any individual weapon. Edward, not unlike many throughout the Wasteland, seeks stability, and in his mind, to do so, he must establish his new Rome. However, the path forward would not be so easy, as looming to the west was a sleeping bear, the NCR. And before Kaiser could claim his Rome, he would have to defeat the bear at the Battle of the Hoover Dam. To tell the story, I have gathered all the audio clips of Ranger Chief Hanlon, and just like before, edited it into one seamless monologue. So, enjoy.
In big battles, Caesar deploys his legionaries in waves. Recruits up front, prime soldiers behind the recruits, old guard bringing up the rear. Opponents wear themselves out dealing with the first two waves, if they survive that long. When the veterans step up, there's not much fight left. Caesar can adapt, though, and when required, he can run any mix of legionaries as skirmishers and still retain order in the ranks. Joshua Graham, Caesar's old legate, he wasn't so flexible. When the Legion attacked Hoover Dam, General Oliver ordered his troopers back to the middle ground just after first contact. Graham pushed all of the legionaries onto the dam, filling the east side with recruits up front and veterans in the back, by the book. But once they were in, they were stuck there. Oliver's troopers were entrenched and wouldn't give a foot. That's when we ordered the Rangers and the 1st Recon sharpshooters to start picking off veteran Legion officers from a high ridge west of the dam. That only lasted about a minute before Graham ordered the back ranks to push through to the front and rush the ridge, caused total chaos among the younger legionaries. Oliver's troopers fell back to the side walkways and stayed out of the veterans' way. By the time the veterans got to the ridge, we were already in Boulder City. They followed us down there, but we were out before they realized what was happening. We had packed the old city with C4 and dynamite. Crude, but it did the job. Those who didn't die in the blast were in no position to mount a defense. The ones left on the dam didn't know what to do. The troopers routed them. Graham pulled the remaining legionaries back, but the battle was over. He went south, back to the Grand Canyon, back to Caesar. And that was the last we saw or heard from Joshua Graham. Losing the dam was the worst defeat the Legion ever suffered. Graham had been with Caesar since the beginning, but he had to set an example. The Praetorians covered Graham in pitch, lit him on fire, and down into the Grand Canyon he went. You have to understand, Graham was the toughest son of a gun anyone around these parts had ever seen. Before Hoover, we had 5 kill reports on Graham from Rangers and 1st Recon sharpshooters who tried to take him out. Some folks think he's still alive. Call him the Burned Man.
Kaiser was furious. Failure to him was not an option, and to demonstrate this, Joshua Graham's name was erased from Legion history. Following this, Graham was replaced by Legate Lanius, a distinguished warrior assimilated by the Legion in its prior quests. He would become known as the Beast of the East, and under Kaiser's orders would expand the Legion eastward, growing its numbers and power. Over the next 4 years, Kaiser would continue this expansion and refinement. His army would be rebuilt with a fresh 14 tribes, and later would be forged into one of the most efficient war machines of post-war America. As his legion would grow ever stronger, Kaiser would face the harsh reality of being human. Kaiser, who once irradiated power and confidence, began to look sickly. In the following months, he would see a loss in weight resulting in a sinking face. As his illness progressed, he began to experience headaches which grew into unbearable migraines. Despite their loyalty, Kaiser's officers noticed this decline, with any daring to question his health facing harsh consequences. These doubts would only grow as Kaiser began to experience minor memory loss and blank thoughts. Due to a lack of trained physicians within his army, ironic if you consider his roots, Kaiser would be unable to diagnose his illness. However, he speculates it's most likely a brain tumor. Let's hear what Kaiser has to say about his illness.
All right, let's state the obvious. There's something wrong with me. The headaches started a couple of months ago. They weren't too bad at first, but now they come frequently and they're debilitating. For the past 2 weeks, my left leg has been dragging. It's stiffer, hard to move. And you've seen me blank out. Lucia says I stare into space, blink a few times, then keep talking like nothing happened. So what's the diagnosis?
Lacking the proper tools, Kaiser is unable to make his own diagnosis, but has suspicions that it is most likely a brain tumor. It is in this state that the courier will meet Kaiser and decide the fate of the Mojave. Depending on the decisions made by the courier, many fates can await Edward. Will he succeed in his quest, or watch as his legion crumbles? The choice remains with the player. Kaiser, in my opinion, is a prime example of how powerful knowledge can be, and how in a world of chaos, harnessing this knowledge can be more destructive than any individual weapon. Although I heavily disagree with Kaiser and how he rules, one must respect his achievements. But what is the center of Edward's beliefs? Well, in my opinion, it would have to be the preservation of the state in the pursuit of stability. To Kaiser, utilizing oneself to further the state's power and influence is not only important, but is the highest importance. Although it can be easily debated that Kaiser's beliefs were rooted in narcissism and greed, all hidden behind a twisted lens, to Kaiser, individuals have no value other than how they can further the state's agenda. In his eyes, the Great War was caused by greed and the many flaws of a bureaucratic system. This new wasteland to him is humanity's chance to restart and be reborn. However, one must question the validity of these claims as they come from a self-claimed deity. Kaiser, despite his claims, is only human, and deep within him harbors a fear for being exposed as a fraud. When you strip down the decor, the Legion is a group of enslaved tribes who were brought together using books discovered in the dirt. As a result, any who dare to question Caesar, regardless of the severity, are met with harsh punishment, including crucifixion. Remember Joshua Graham? One would think execution might be enough in Caesar's mind for failure. However, he had Joshua erased from his history. Could this be because he knows the truth of Caesar's history is Edward? As we draw close to the end of this journey, let us try to answer this question. Who is Caesar? Well, in my opinion, when you break everything down, Edward is simply an extreme wasteland charlatan turned dictator. Regardless of what might sound like harsh words, this is one of the many reasons I find him so fascinating. In a world engulfed by chaos and violence, all it takes an individual to amass power, even godhood, is a couple of dusty books and some good fortune. What do you think? As I said, some of these topics reach much further than I could concisely cover in one video. That being said, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, my friends, for sticking around this long. If you liked this video, why not drop me a like? This is my first attempt at a longer format video, so I would love to hear your thoughts on how I can improve my videos going forward. If you have any topics you would like to see going forward, please feel free to suggest them in the comments. Thank you again, my friends, and I will see you in the next video.